This pack is designed to be an expedition ski pack that can also compress down and really ski well on the downhill portion of your trip. And that's the entire question of this pack, can it do that? And my answer is mostly yes. But there are a few catches. And so I'm gonna give you 3 things I like, 3 things I don't, and then my final verdict. The first thing I like about this pack is that it carries big but skis small. When I went up Mount Shasta, I had about 42, 43 pounds of gear. I didn't weigh it, but I certainly had enough for an overnight and all the necessities there. And then when it came time to ski down, this thing did just compress down and really make the descent a breeze. It's also a pack that handles the load well. With that weight in the low 40s, I didn't notice anything with the hip belt or the shoulder pads that caused me any issues. I felt like it skinned up perfectly fine. The real magic for this pack happens when you start taking gear out. Once you get to camp and you can, take out your layers and your sleeping bag and all those things that take up bulky space, this thing really cinches down small and it skis and it feels like any other day pack for the mountains. I was surprised at how thin this thing became once I took out all the gear. I must also say that if I was going on a true expedition up Denali or someplace like that, I probably wouldn't use this pack. It does expand to, I think it's 70 liters with this roll top, where it all the way kind of expands out. And then obviously you can see here, the sides also do the same. I just wouldn't feel like I probably had enough room to really do a true expedition. I haven't done a true expedition, so my opinion is probably worthless. I'm just a guy on the internet. The second thing I really like about this pack is the back panel access right here. Here's the feature I'm enjoying the most about this Raide pack is the back panel opening up, and then you just got access to all your stuff. Got an inner pouch here, and if you just want to take a break and kick off your backpack, it's really easy to grab something out and not have to unpack it all. So yeah, that's a smart design. I do want to say though, one reason why this is necessary is because the design choice they made, you don't have access to the main compartment except for the roll top closure up here. There's nothing on this side or the back of the pack where you can get into the main pack, none at all. And so if you have a layer or something buried deep here that you need, unless you just want to have a yard sale on the mountain, this back panel access is the only way. One reason why this is one of my favorite features is that when you're on the side of the mountain and you want to take out something maybe near the bottom, instead of putting your pack down with the straps on the snow, and then you put it back on, you just got some snow stuck in here and it gets on you and then you get a little wet. You just put it down with this side, which is much more water resistant, and you put it smack down on the snow and you have easy access to everything inside, and you're not getting your hip belt and your shoulder pads snowed up. The second thing I like about this pack is the Avy Tool Storage. One of the things I look for in a backcountry pack is a dedicated pouch for my shovel and my probe, and this has that, so it's actually quite cool. If you notice here on the side, right here is the probe pocket. It's got its own dedicated pouch, and it has a zipper, and while you have the pack on, you could easily just simply unzip that with your hand, and you got it pulling out right here, and there's your probe. That's a great feature, and it's a little hidden pocket. The Avalanche shovel stores in its dedicated pouch, which is right here. You do need to take the pack off. Simply unzips halfway across the pack, or maybe I should say 3/4. It doesn't go all the way, and inside here you have a spot for your shovel and a couple accessories, which is the shovel handle. One thing about this I didn't like though, is if you have this pack pretty fully loaded, so expedition style, that pouch becomes pretty tight. The Avalanche shovel blade, it's a little tough to get in there, because that blade has a bit of an angle to it. It's not perfectly flat. One of the things I think they should have done with this pack is make that pouch, or just the exterior here where that goes, just a little bit thicker, a little bit more room to expand, because it ends up taking up some of the interior volume of the pack. You can make it work. You just need to put layers that can squish a little bit against there on the inside. But I think it's just off by maybe a ½ inch. A side note here is I do want to shout out to Raide, because everything on this pack does feel premium built. It does feel like the zippers, the construction, the seams along the zippers, everything just feels like it's made to last. And so the price tag is expensive, but I don't feel like I'm getting something that's junky. I mean, even as small as these buckle clasps here are made out of metal, and so you're not going to be stuck somewhere where you have a buckle clasp that hits a rock and shatters, and then next thing you know, you can't you can't strap your pack down. It's the same thing here with the belt. The front belt is a little bit different if you've never used one like this. It simply is a toggle clasp. I don't really know what the word is for it, but it makes sense to me. And it's also metal. Once I figured it out, it became very intuitive and was very nice to work with, and never felt like there was any issue of it breaking because there's no plastic pieces. It's just two pieces of metal, one fitting into the other, and it will hold secure, zero issues. The only durability concern I have is I did get a small hole in the roll top material, and I'm not really sure how I got that because I'm very careful with my crampons and my ice axe. Clearly I wasn't. Maybe I, you know, had a little hypoxic brain or something. If I stored my crampons inside here, it was inside a case, so I'm not really sure what happened. You know, kind of disappointing that a $500 plus pack has a hole after only a couple days. It's kind of jumping ahead here to something negative, but I'm gonna mention it because it's related to the hole, and there's not a dedicated crampon pouch. There is this large external pouch which has a very premium feeling zipper, and it does seem to secure quite well. Inside of here there's an additional zippered small pouch which is handy, but if you have, you know, a sleeping bag and pad on the main part of the pack, and then you want to try to put your crampons in here and you have the avalanche shovel already in its storage, there's just not room. I think the material in here is supposed to do that, or maybe that's what this is supposed to be for, your crampons. But practically speaking, there's not room, guys. Now, I do have pretty big feet. I wear size 12, so my crampons are, you know, kind of large. So I was kind of left with having to store my crampons inside their case, inside the main pouch. Now, everything inside my main pouch, I put inside waterproof sacks, either Dyneema or Sil Poly packs. So there's no issue for me of like the water, but I think this material or this pouch, again, should have been about an inch more give to it, because if you have expedition type stuffing going on in the main pack, it's just not gonna leave room. I gave you a negative before I got to them, so let me give you one additional positive to balance it out. The ski carry on this is amazing. Of course, you can A-frame carry, and these straps are quite good for that and really easy to get the tension right. It has this little strap that comes out. You can tuck it right in there when you're not using it, and it's so easy to put your skis down into here, and you can just cross carry on your back and use the strap here and really be on the move. That's really handy on a volcano like I was on, because as you know, when it starts to melt, there's gonna be rocks and times you gotta take off your skis and you can't skin up. So you don't wanna have to A-frame carry or hand carry. So this is phenomenal. One other thing that's worth noting is the ice axe carry. I found the ice axe carry on here was probably 10 out of 10. Of all the packs I've used, and I've used dozens, I just felt like this was perfect. It was secure, it was safe, and it just didn't feel like an add-on. It was very well thought out. So great job, Raide team, on the ice axe carry. So now let me tell you 3 things I don't like, and the elephant in the room is the price. Man, this is expensive. Over 500 bucks for a pack. I do think you're getting what you pay for. I think the quality is there and the build is there. There's really well thought out design choices, even if some force you to act a certain way, which I'll show you in a minute. But it's not a cheaply made pack. So it's something that will last for multiple seasons. However, if somebody's just getting into mountaineering, or they're only gonna use it a little bit, or they don't really need the extra space, this is probably not the pack you should get. There's packs that are really close as far as quality that are just a lot cheaper. The second thing I don't like is the Raide design philosophy that it forces you into. Now, they have stated, particularly for this product and many of theirs, that they don't believe that ski mountaineering packs should have anything dangling off of them. Fair enough. We're not Europeans with everything on the outside. We put everything on the inside. That is a respectable choice. However, for everybody else, like me, I sometimes like to have things, maybe not dangling off my pack, but available. So I'll give you a couple examples. On the shoulder harnesses here, there's no daisy chain. You can't connect something. There's a little one here and a little kind of Velcro or a little elastic one here. So if you want to attach a phone holder or a water bottle carry, good luck. Yeah, it's not gonna work. I may have to stitch it on myself because I actually like to have that there. Or for example, I use camera equipment when I record my trips. So if you want to have a camera pod up front, again, good luck. There's nothing on either side where you can attach anything. The hip pocket storage is decent on both. This is stretchy material, and they do have one spot here for a carabiner, so you could carabiner something on there. I guess, you know, more if you have a harness and you want to have something tied to your pack, but it's just not there. And I just think that's a big mistake. Again, why not just sew on a few daisy chains and let us decide rather than you making the decision for us as a company? One more example. There's not an obvious way to store a helmet, which again, that's fine. There is a number of toggle points on the pack. They also have on the bottom where if you wanted to carry or tow a sled, you could do that. So what I did, and this is how I like to carry my helmet, is I get a couple of these ultra lightweight mini carabiners. These are actually from Hilltop Packs. They're the lightest weight little mini carabiners you can find. They're just made out of aluminum. And so I get 2 of those and I can just clip in my, my helmet to the back of these. But it'd be nice if there was a thought for a helmet system, or, you know, what we're supposed to do. I mean, I guess you can just wear your helmet on your head. Helmet's on for mom, right? The third and final thing I don't like is I noticed a squeak. So on the inside of this pack is a kind of a U, an upside down U, which is providing internal support to the entire pack. I don't believe it goes along the bottom. It just goes along here and along there. And when I had this pack fully loaded, and I purposely brought more gear than I needed. For example, I brought my down pants and my expedition parka because they're pretty light, but they take up a lot of volume. And I just, you know, was going to be in the teens at camp, and I thought, I'll just bring them. Be comfortable, you know, don't have to suffer if you don't need to. But that did mean that my main compartment was pretty full. I had the roll top relatively high with all the gear. But as I was, you know, on the skin track, I noticed there's this kind of, see if I can make it for you. That squeaky noise, yeah. As I would kind of move and adjust, that sometimes would happen. And it wasn't the worst squeak I've ever had in the pack. I had an Arc'teryx pack that had a really terrible squeak. So it's not, you know, maybe as I use this pack more, it will break in a little bit and there'll be less of that. It didn't annoy me enough to make it an issue. I don't feel like I need to return it because of the squeak. But other people might have it. If you're like really sensitive to squeaky noises on your pack, this, you know, maybe it'll happen to you, maybe not. Maybe you'll get one that doesn't squeak. So here's my final verdict. This pack, the Raide EX 55, is a great dedicated ski mountaineering pack. I would not call it the best expedition pack, and I would not call it the best day pack, but that's not really the point. The point is it can do both surprisingly well. It can carry an overnight load, it can compress down and still ski well, and that back panel access is baller. So the Avy Tool Storage is dialed, the ski carry system is really good, especially the side carry, and overall the build just feels premium. The downside are real as far as the price and a few of the limitations for how you want to use it. If you're looking to get one pack to use for overnight trips like up a volcano or maybe somewhere in the Sierra, and you're looking for a pack that can still ski well on a day use basis, this probably is the best answer. However, if you're somebody that prefers more different packs in your quiver, depending on what the day holds, this might not be the best choice for you. If you've used this pack or another Raide pack, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. I would love to know what you think, especially if you've used this pack more than me. Let me know how it's holding up for you, or if you have the squeak or other issues. If you're looking at this pack, thinking about buying it, and you have any questions, drop it in the comments and I'll try to help you out as best I can.